The following program was brought to you in part by a grant from the T.A. Lonkow Foundation.
I took out from Reno, I was 12 to win a house. Didn't get much sleep that night till the morning come around. Set out around but I take my time. Friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight. Run into the devil and he loaned me 20 bills. Spent the night in Utah in a cave up in the hills. Set out to run about to take my time. Friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight. Got two reasons why I cry way each lonely night. And the first one's named Sweet Anne-Marie, she is my heart's delight. Second one is prison, babe, and a sheriff on the trail. And if it catches up with me, I'll spend my life in jail. Got a wife in Chino, babe, and one in Cherokee. First one says she got my child, but it don't look like me. Set out and run about to take my time. Friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight. I don't usually start in with that one, but that's kind of dedicated to Jerry Garcia. Here's one from down around that same bay. It was written by Jesse Fuller, a one-man band. He was a one-man band when he was walking man. I got the blues from my baby, lay me by the San Francisco Bay. Oh, Shanalina, she gone so far away. Didn't mean to treat her so bad, the best gal I ever have had. She said goodbye, like it made me cry. I want to lay down and die. Have I got a nickel? I ain't got a lousy dime. She don't come back, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. If she ever comes back to stay, spend another brand new day walking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay. Sitting down looking from my back door, wondering which way to go. Woman, I'm so crazy about, well, she don't want me no more. Think I'll take me a freight train because I'm feeling blue. Ride all the way to the end of the line, thinking only of you. Live a while in another city, just about to go insane. Sounded like I heard my baby the way she used to call my name. She ever come back to stay, spend another brand new day, walking with my baby. Talking with my baby. Riding, driving, gliding, sliding, rowing, sailing, talking with my baby down by the sand. Friend, a Frisco Bay. Can't hear the monitor. Thank you very much. So you got one-way streets, eh? Well, I didn't have any trouble finding the place because we did it last night in Chico. We had a lot of practice. Drove around the same block 6 times looking for 2nd Street. I figured 2nd would be somewhere between 1st and 3rd. I figured wrong. There's an old cowboy song. It's a thing I learned from Woody Guthrie. I was living at Woody's house at the time, and I asked him if he would teach me the song, and he said, "It's on the record." So I learned it off a record. Come on, you old-time cowboys, and listen to my song. Please do not grow weary, I'll not detain you long. Concerning some wild cowboys that did agree to go and spend one summer pleasantly on the range of the buffalo. Well, I found myself in Griffin in the year of '83 when a well-known famous drover come walking up to me, saying, "How do you do, young fellow, and how'd you like to go and spend one summer pleasantly on the range of the buffalo?" Well, me being out of work right then, to this drover I did say, "This going out on the Buffalo Road depends upon your pay. But if you pay good wages, transportation to and fro, think I might go with you on the hunt of buffalo." Yes, I will pay good wages and transportation too. if you'll agree to work for me until the season's through. But if you do go home sick, can you try to run away? You'll starve to death out on the trail and also lose your pay. Well, with all this flattering talking, he signed up quite a train. Some 10 or 12 in number, some able-bodied men. Our trip was a pleasant one as we hit the westward road until we reached Old Bogey Creek in old New Mexico. Well, it was there our pleasures ended and our troubles all begun. The lightning storm hit us and made the cattle run. I got all full of stickers from the cactus that did grow. Outlaws watching her to pick us on from the hills of Mexico. Well, our working season ended and the drover would not pay. You went and drunk too much. You're all in debt to me. But the cowboys never had heard of such a thing as a bankrupt law. So we left that drover's bones to bleach on the plains of the buffalo. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was this time of year, I think it was Cow Palace Rodeo was going on. It was about 30 years ago, and I was down there. I wasn't competing in it or nothing. I was just hanging out with some friends there, and I was watching them ride. And after the rodeo, I got a ride over to the motel with one of the cowboys, a fellow named Jim Shoulders. And it was the first time I'd met Jim, but I'd seen him for years, and it was kind of aghast to be riding in his car with him. And I was telling him about some of my life dreams and things, and small boats and stuff, and sailing around the world in small boats. And he said, "You crazy," which I took as a compliment, but coming from him. And we went over to the motel and played guitars and sang, and I ended up with next morning, nothing to have. Rodeo was over, everybody was splitting, and I rode up to Red Bluff with Jim Noonies, who's a bronc rider then. He took me up to his ranch, and I stayed overnight on the couch and hitchhiked back to San Francisco next day. And I just went looking for him. I remembered where the ranch was, but Jim wasn't around. He passed away last year. Sure, sorry to hear about that. I was looking forward to seeing him again. Those things do happen. Uh, ran into another friend last night who's someone I hadn't met yet, but he's uncle of a dear buddy of mine that used to travel and sing and write songs, and he passed away about 2 years ago. Guess Tom Jans, and he wrote some real pretty songs. I don't have any of them in my repertoire, but he wrote some real good kind of country hits there for a while. Tom Jans. I visited his parents from time to time when I get by their home country. He used to travel around and sing with Mimi Free, and that's Joan Baez's sister, and he had a wonderful way of just singing straight and simple, like kind of cowboy style. He wrote a song called, was it Love in Arms? Love in Arms. With a big head. Probably wasn't for that, he'd probably be alive today. You know, them big hits is what kills it. But, that Nashville life, you know, and that Hollywood life. Tom and I went over to Hawaii together one time. He had on a pair of Tony Lama boots and yellow boxer shorts and a big straw hat, like a Hawaiian, you know, plantation hat. We tore up Hawaii for about 3 weeks, left everybody laughing, including ourselves. Here's a little song that I learned off a record, another one of those record deals. I was snowed in a mountain cabin, and it's kind of hard for me to learn new songs, but couldn't get the door open. And it was in Pennsylvania. We were up in the hills there around Allentown, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And we had a refrigerator full of venison and a bottle of Cutty Sark and this Bob Dylan record. So we were okay. And we just listened to that record over and over again. Later I went down we got the door open, you know, when the snow melted, and we hopped in my Bell telephone truck and we drove up to New York City. They were having a big hootenanny downstairs at the Gaslight Cafe. Dave Van Ronk was there, and Bob Dylan, and Peter LaFarge. And I thought I'd try to sing this song, and I hadn't sung it to anybody except my cabin mate there. So I sang the song. Hadn't finished the second verse, and Bob stood up in the aisle and shouted at me, "I relinquish it to you, Jack." I thought that was mighty nice of him. It's called Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. Ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe, if and you don't know by now. And it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe, it'll never do somehow. When you rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a-traveling on, but don't think twice, it's all right. And it ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, like you never done before. Ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, 'cause I can't hear you anymore. Thinking and a-wondering, walking down the road, how I once loved a woman, a child, I'm told. Give her my heart, but she wanted my soul. But don't think twice, it's all right. and it ain't no use in a turning on your light, babe. The light I never knowed. Ain't no use in a turning on your light, babe, 'cause I'm on the dark side of the road. Still I wish there was something you would do or say to try and make me change my mind and stay. We never did too much talking anyway, but don't think twice, it's alright. So long, honey, babe. Where I'm bound, I can't tell. Goodbye is too good a word, babe. So I'll just say fare thee well. I'm not saying you treated me unkind. You could have done better, but I don't mind. You just kind of wasted my precious time. But don't think twice, it's alright. Water? God, I thought that was tequila. I did play here once before. I was traveling with a big country western show, and I played this song, and the star of the show, who was an old friend of mine and wanted to see me prosper and get ahead and all that, gave me some kind advice and warned me never to sing this song again in one of his shows because he thought it was a little bit boring for his fans. I think he was right, and I didn't sing it anymore on that tour. But I'd like to play it for you. Now, it was in a much bigger hall, see, and it's the kind of song that doesn't go over in big halls. I think it was the convention hall over here. It's a California thing. It's called the South Coast. It was written by Lillian Boss Ross, who lived up in that country down around Big Sur. And I visited her there. Lived up on top of a mountain just across the way from Henry Miller. I would have liked to have visited Henry Miller too, but I didn't want to disturb him. He had so many fans knocking on the door, poor man. But kind of sorry I never got to meet him though, and never got back there. But she sang me her version of the song. It was entirely different from this, but this is one I learned from Frank Hamilton on a porch down in North Carolina. My name was Lanjano de Castro. My father was a Spanish grandee. But I won my wife in a card game to help those lords over the sea. Well, the South Coast is a wild coast and lonely. You might win in a game at hold on. But a still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone. I played in a card game at Hold On. I played there with an hombre named Juan. And after I'd taken his money, staked all against his daughter, Dawn. Dawn picked up the ace. I had won her. My heart, which was down at my feet, jumped up to my throat in a hurry, like a young summer's day. She was sweet. He opened the door to the kitchen and called the girl out with a curse, saying, "Take her, goddamn her, you've won her. She's yours now, for better or worse." Her arms had to tighten around me as we rode down the hills to the south. Not a word did I hear from her that day, nor a kiss from her pretty red mouth. We soon reached the valley at twilight. The stars twinkled out on the coast. She soon loved the valley and the orchard, but I knew that she loved me the most. And that was a gay, happy winter. We carved on a cradle of pine by the fire in that neat little shanty, and I sang with that gay wife of mine. But the South Coast is a wild coast and lonely. You might win in a game at Hold On, but a lion still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone. That night I got hurt in a landslide, crushed hip and twice broken bone. She saddled her pony like lightning and rode off for a doctor at Hold On. The lion screamed in the barranca. Bucky bolted and he fell on the slide. My young wife lay dead in the moonlight. My heart died that night with my bride. Well, the South Coast is a wild coast and lonely. You might win in a game alone, but a lion still rules the barranca, and a man there a man there is always alone. The South Coast. Thank you. Here's a tune that was introduced by Pete Seeger many years ago. I always kind of captured my ear. It's called the South Coast. I mean, it's called the, what is it called? It's called the Bahamian Lullaby. It's not called the South Coast. I don't know why I said that. Little baby, don't you cry. You know your papa's bound to die. And all my trials, Lord, soon be over. Too late, my brother. Too late, but never mind. And all the trials will soon be over. There is a little tree in paradise, and the pilgrims call the tree of life. And all my trials soon be over. I have a little book that was given to me, and every page spells victory. All my trials, Lord, will soon be over. If religion was a thing that money could buy, the rich would live and the poor would die. All my trials, Lord, will soon be over. That's about as far as that one ever goes. Thank you so much. Here's a little talking blues by Woody Guthrie. It's about fishing. I went down to the fishing hole, I carried along my fishing pole. Something got my hook and grabbed my bait and jerked me out in the middle of the lake. Some jumping. I got sunk, baptized on the credit. You go fishing, I'll tell you what to do. Just set right down in the grassy dew. Take a piece of string and tie it on your pole and throw it way out in the middle of the hole. And then just find your good shade tree and sit down and go to sleep. Forget all about it. Sitting in a boat with a bucket of beer, and I hadn't caught nothing and I didn't much care. I guess I was pretty well satisfied to have a little later right by my side, taking it easy. Worm been gone off that hook for a couple hours. I jumped in the river and I went down deep. There's 100-pound catfish laying there asleep. Jumped on his back, rode him into town, saddled him up, and then I turned around. Folks come running, dogs barking, kids looking. Waded across to a sandy bar, and I caught myself a big alligator gar, and I drug him home across my back. His tail dragging a mile and a half. Flipping and flopping, sold him for a quarter. Got drunk, shot craps, got in jail. Early one morning, it took me a notion to go out fishing in the middle of the ocean, and I caught myself a great big shark. Didn't get him home till way past dark. He was a man-eater, tough customer. Just wasn't quite tough enough. Late last night, I had me a dream. I was out fishing in a whiskey stream, and I baited myself up, baited it up with I throwed in some Applejack there, and well, I'd bring a gallon back every time. Did pretty good till the stream run dry. So I give the fish back to the finance company. Well, it's about break time, 7th inning stretch. Might like to take a little fresh air or something. I'll play a little short piece here to kind of ease the pain of getting up. Take a little break, come on back and sing a few more tunes. Something funny or something sad. Railroad Bill, he never worked and he never will. Ride, ride, ride. Railroad Bill, mighty bad man. Shot the lantern right out of that brakeman's hand. Ride, ride, ride. Railroad Bill is a-comin' home soon. Shot Macmillan by the light of the moon. Ride, ride, ride. Macmillan had a special train. When he got there, it was spring, oh, ride. Railroad Bill sitting on a hill, lighting cigars with a $10 bill. Right, right, right. Take a break. Wonderful, wonderful. I got a list of songs here I don't want to forget to do. Don't let me forget to look at the list. This one here, sang this in a movie. It was a Hollywood movie, and it was a remake of an earlier classic French gangster movie called Breathless. And it was with John Paul Belmondo. I think it was the film that put Belmondo on the map. The original one, the original Breathless. This new one was in Technicolor, shot in the Hollywood Hills. And maybe it was the food, I don't know, it lacked something. We didn't have French catering there. Could have made all the difference. But it was shot up at the old wrecked mansion where Errol Flynn used to live, and it was my scene where I was called in to sing a song, this song. Originally I was called in to sing a song called Tramp on the Street, but they couldn't find the ownership or the title on Tramp on the Street, so it couldn't do Tramp on the Street, so they had me do Cool Water instead. And I'd like to play it for you now. We started singing the song, and the camera was turned on and the lights were on, and then it started raining, so we had to abort the shot and go back to the hotel. The next night we tried it again, got it all set up, and the moment the camera started rolling, it started raining again. So we did 3 tries like that. Finally got it in the can, as they say. But then they canned it. Been most of my Hollywood movies have been on the cutting room floor. I hope to come out with my own film later, a collection of cutting room floor collected material. This is Cool Water. All day I face the barren waste without the taste of water, cool water. Old Dan and I with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water. clear water. Keep 'em moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's the devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with water. Dan, can you see that big green tree where the water's running free and it's waiting there for you and me? Calling cool water. The nights are cool and I'm a fool. Each star's a pool of water, cool water. Way out there, you hear our prayer and show us where there's water. Good, clear water. Keep 'em moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's a devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with water. Can you see that big green tree? The water's running free, waiting there for you and me. Calling with cool, clear water. Nights are cool and I'm a fool. Each star's a pool of water, cool water. Way out there, hear our prayer and show us where there's water, cool, clear water. Another movie-making thing I attempted to do was in Chris Christopherson's first movie, and it was the last scene in the movie, so it was easy to let it drop. But it was, once again, a lot of fun getting up there and acting in front of the cameras, and a lot of spectacular stuff going on. It was Slim Pickens and myself in a Cadillac. We were going to a rodeo and turned our car over in the desert there. And it was kind of a funny scene, and we made up our own lines and ad-libbed it. And the car ended up burning up, and then Chris comes along. He's leaving Los Angeles, heading out for Texas, and sees the smoke and comes and gives us a ride, rescues us. We're kind of stranded out there after the car burned up. And it was a real funny scene. The director took me out to tell me what a great actor I was and what a terrific scene it was, and then they cut it out of the picture. And I was forced to join the actors union. I told them, heck, I don't want to be an actor, you don't need me, you know, but they made me join anyway. So I can always act if I want to, see. It's nice to have that something to fall back on if I hurt my hand. And there was a Bob Dylan movie with 200 hours of film, and they cut it for a year, and they sliced it from 200 hours down to a 5-hour movie. And there were some funny scenes in that too, but nothing worth going to the movies for. Nothing that you couldn't, you know, have fun doing yourself at home without a camera. yes, and this is a Christopherson song, and it's about the only one I know. It's the first one I learned, and I learned it from Chris in a hotel room, which had a nice advantage to it at the time because nobody had ever heard of him, including myself, and I didn't know who it was knocking on the door, and I was taking a nap. I was doing a television show down in Nashville, and someone knocked on the motel door, and I answered the door, and looked out, and I didn't recognize the person out in the hallway, and they were carrying a guitar. It was not in a case, just kind of holding on to it like this, and I looked at the person, and he says, "Oh, are you sleeping?" I says, "No, who is it?" He says, "Oh, my name's Chris. I'm a friend of Shell's. I could come back later." I says, "Well, just hang on a second. I'll put some clothes on." And I put some clothes on, opened the door. He came in, sat down on the bed there. He says, "Want to hear a song?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I guess so." And he played this song, and it was so fine. I made him play it about 10 times the rest of the day. There we went out all over town, driving around, playing the song. Had a car full of paper. It was all yellow paper with words written on it all over. Hillman Minks, I think. Little song words. And it was then that I was introduced to the wild and wonderful upside-down world of songwriters. And he took me out to a lake where they all lived on houseboats. And that was really fine, because that way all the tears just drained overboard, and they didn't have to... Busted flat in Baton Rouge, headed for the trains, feeling nearly faded as my jeans. Bobby thumbed a diesel down just before it rained, took us all the way to New Orleans. I pulled my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana and was blowing sad while Bobby sang the blues. But then windshield wipers slapping time and Bobby clapping hands finally sang up every song that driver knew. Freedom's just another word for nothing left loose. Nothing ain't worth nothing, but it's free. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues. And feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and Bobby McGee. From the coal mines of Kentucky to the California sun, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul. Standing right beside me, Lord, through everything I've done. And every night you kept me from the cold. Ah, but somewhere near Salinas, Lord, let us slip away. Looking for a home, I hope she'll find. I'd trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday. Holding Bobby's body close to mine. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing left was all she left for me. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues. And Betty, that was good enough for me. Good enough for me and Bobby McGee. got another one here that's I think might be Turkey. This other one here is written by an old friend of Woody Guthrie's, and he was a fellow named Butch Hawes. Butch lived in Bangor Canyon there when Woody was buying some land there from Bob DeWitt back in 1950s, 54 I think it was. And Butch had a real bad case of arthritis, and he wrote this song. It's called The Arthritis Blues. Went to the doctor looked sad. Well, he looked in his book, and he told me what I had, and it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. Arthritis is the thing to miss. It'll leave you walking with a double twist, and it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. You can't stand up and you can't lay down. You can't sit in a chair. You can't roll on the ground. And it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. Gin, rum, and whiskey will ease pain. You wake up in the morning and it's right back again. And it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. If you get to heaven, tell the judge for me. I've had 16 years of the third degree, and it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. Well, if I live to be 43, you'll find me running like a Model T, and it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. Arthritis is a thing to miss. It'll leave you walking with a double twist, and it's all kinds of trouble. Gonna find you somehow. Arthritis Blues. Stay away from that one. Here's another one that was written by Woody Guthrie that's called The Philadelphia Lawyer. It was the first song that Tennessee Ernie Ford ever recorded. Way out in Reno, Nevada, where the romance blooms and fades, a great Philadelphia lawyer in love with a Hollywood maid. Come, love, and we will wander down where the lights are so bright. I'll win you a divorce from your husband, and we can get married tonight. While Bill was a gun-toting cowboy, 10 notches carved on his gun. And all of the boys around Reno left Wild Bill's darling alone. One night as Bill was returning from riding the range in the cold, he thought of his Hollywood darling. Her love's as lasting as gold. Well, as Bill drew near to the window, two shadows he saw on the shade. It was the great Philadelphia lawyer making love to Bill's Hollywood maid. Well, the night was as still as the desert, and the moon hanging high overhead. Bill listened a while at the window. He could hear every word that was said. Your hands are so pretty and lovely, your form so rare and divine. Come go back with me to Philadelphia and leave this wild cowboy behind. Well, tonight back in old Pennsylvania, amongst her beautiful pines, there's one less Philadelphia lawyer in old Philadelphia tonight. Well, here's one that was, I think, the first rock and roll song that I ever heard. I had it on a 78 of Louis Jordan and the Timpani Five. It was on the flip side of a tune called Choo 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 Boogie, or Take Me Right Back to the Track Jack. This one is called Salt Park, West Virginia. McNeil, McNeil, don't steal my automobile. I'll take you to a cafe, buy you a real fine meal. Hey, Mac, we're gonna do some riding. Soon we're gonna come to a dividing. I don't wanna continue cause the sign says Salt Park, West Virginia. And that's where my baby lives, and I ain't going no further. Hey, Mac, don't just stop me now. Don't wanna commit no murder. McNeil, McNeil, don't steal my wheel. I'll buy you anything on the menu. Cause, boy, I gotta go to Salt Park, West Virginia. McNeil, McNeil, don't steal my automobile. I'll take you to a cafe and buy you a real fine meal. Hey, Mac, we're gonna do some riding. Soon we're gonna come to a dividing. I don't wanna continue cause the sign says Salt Park, West Virginia. And that's where my baby lives, and I ain't going no further. Hey, Mac, don't you stop me now. Don't wanna commit no murder. McNeil, McNeil, don't steal my wheel. I'd buy you anything on the menu. Cause, boy, I gotta go to Salt Park, West Virginia. Cause, boy, I got to go to Salt Park, West Virginia. have the word rock and roll then. They used to call it rhythm and blues back then. I was in Italy when they first had Ray Charles. The first time I heard a Ray Charles record when I was over in Italy, hanging out in a town called Portofino, playing a little bar there and going out sailing on the sea, the Gulf of Rapallo. That's one I can't play there. Got this 912 Greens, I can play that. This is what I wrote. Sometimes I can play it, sometimes I can't play it. But it's awful long, too. I'll try and do an abbreviated version, spare you. It was about the first time I ever went to New Orleans. It was in the year 1953. Call was by the title of 912 Greens. And it was when I first met Frank Hamilton and Guy Carawan and heard that song, The South Coast. It was in Greenwich Village in the park there in Washington Square Park on Sunday afternoons. People used to sit around playing banjos and fiddles and guitars and on Sunday afternoons there by the fountain. And these two fellas had driven all the way from Los Angeles in an old war surplus Plymouth four-door car, painted blue. They were heading for Tennessee, North Carolina, and they had their guitars and banjo, and they was all ready to dig the southern music down there. And they invited me to come along with them on their trip. So I threw my guitar in the back seat. We took off. I don't think I even had a case then. The car was the case. Anyway, we ended up down in the next morning. We arrived at Guy's uncle's farm down in North Carolina. To get there just in time for breakfast. And it was farm cooking and eggs and hush puppies and biscuits and all that good stuff. We went out, the neighbor had a fishing boat. He had a shrimp boat. We heard him starting it up. We got out there and he invited us to come along with him on the trip. Went out shrimping. Got back just in time for dinner. Had a big load of shrimp and a boatload of sunburns. They were pretty burnt. Dinner tasted really fine. A whole lot of new things too that the fellas had never tasted before. I got a kick out of watching their faces eating all that stuff. And after dinner, while I was doing the dinner dishes and went on the porch and they were shelling butter beads out on the porch and watching the thunder shower take place out there and lightning. And Frank pulled out his guitar and played this weird song about California. I asked him about it the next morning. We were in the car, we were heading west, we were heading for the Smoky Mountains. Frank was in the back seat practicing the banjo. Frank was always practicing the banjo because he couldn't drive. Well, he was about 17 then. Didn't have a license, I guess. Gave him more time to work on his music. I asked him, hey, what that song you played last night, Frank? You know, something about California? It was raining, you remember, lightning, thunder, something about California. He said it was the South Coast. That's it? I said, would you play that one? No, he couldn't play it right then. He wouldn't play it. And he didn't play it for about another 3 days until we had us another thunder shower. Just had to be in the mood, I guess. By this time, we were coming into the Smoky Mountains. And we went to a festival. They're having some kind of a fiddle contest. The man there named Ted, who played the banjo, and he was a really fine banjo picker. Strange-looking guy, though. on a great big black cowboy hat from out of the 20s. And he had patches sewn on his clothes with funny remarks on them like, scratch no matches on my patches, stuff like that. But nobody called him Ted, they all called him Maggie's old man. Maggie's old man asked us if we'd like to give him a ride home. We said, hop in. You bet, yeah, hop in. We wanted to meet Maggie. We drove about 30 miles, I guess, before anything happened. He didn't say much, except he sang a lot. He didn't sing a lot of them old ballads, though, like we heard at the contest. He sang a lot of new stuff that he'd heard on jukeboxes. His favorite song was Catch Them, Feed Them, Milk 'em in the Morning Blues. That one, and Not whole, you ought to seen what I saw through the old knot hole. That was one of his favorite new hillbilly tunes off the jukebox from down in Maggie. Oh yeah, we finally got to Maggie. We saw the sign, Maggie, population 12. But Maggie's old man never said nothing. We kept driving. We drove right through that town and on up the other side of the mountain till he hollered, grab a left. So we turned left and went up some dirt road until it didn't go no more. Ended up somebody's cornfield. Maggie's old man got out and started playing the banjo right there. And calling a square dance. And we were all dancing around in the corn until the whiskey ran out. Did I mention the whiskey? Maggie's old man had a bottle of some kind of strange homemade whiskey, and it had run out. So we decided to go down into town, and he showed us the way, but I was the one who had to go up and wake up the high sheriff and buy a bottle of this wonderful homemade whiskey. But he was real glad to wake up, and we got along fine. Sold me this bottle of whiskey for about $3, and we went back up the mountain again for a little more music. But it was getting late, and Maggie was waiting with a rolling pin. We came up the ladder there, this building up on top of a mountain on stilts, through a kind of a hatch in the floor, and there was Maggie waiting for us with a rolling pin. What a way to meet her. Well, Maggie's old man, he explained to Maggie how we'd given him a ride home and everything, so she put away the rolling pin, pulled the covers back on their bed and said, get on in there, boys, and get you a good night's sleep. And we climbed in, all three of us, in this big bed there and pulled the covers up over our head, and pretty soon the noise started. I don't know, at first we couldn't figure out what was going on, but I guess what it was is they were staging a family feud in our honor. In the morning, we helped them pick up the spilt milk and broken glass and get the kids off to the hospital. And Maggie's old man, he says, boys, I'm a good old man, ain't I? And we agreed with him, of course, and he says, I'm gonna show you a place where you can see all over the world. And he took us up to this big high mountain that was even higher than the one we was on. It was above the clouds. And there we could see to the north some mountains that was, he claimed it was the southeast corner of Kentucky. And over to the right of that was the southwest corner of Virginia. And up a little bit to the left and far behind a notch, barely visible, we could see the Grand Tetons. I mean, we were high up there. We coasted all the way down to Nashville, 600 miles west, only burned about 2 gallons of gasoline on the uphill grade. And there we saw the Grand Ole Opry, of course. met Earl Scruggs, Roy Acuff, String Bean. Had a fine time there, and then we went on again. We wanted to get to New Orleans. And we had the name of a banjo player. He went by the name of Billy Fair, lived in New Orleans. We're going to look him up. Well, we didn't have his name and address. We just had his name, Billy Fair. Looked him up in the telephone directory, but he wasn't there. So we just parked the car and headed on down Bourbon Street and down Rue Royale. We came to a big square down by the river. There was a cafe there called the Café du Monde, and it was a big kind of a cloud of white smoke, like it was sugar. Is that what it was? Actually, it was something. They had these French donut kind of things, bakery with coffee, and Billy was having him one of them beignets, they call them, sitting there kind of hidden in the cloud of white sugar, dressed in white ducks, so we could hardly see him at all except for his black mustache, which stood out through the smoke screen. Billy invited us over to his pad, 912 Toulouse Street. Just a short walk and up a back alley. Up over the garbage can lid and up over the board fence. Watch out for that rusty nail. Now you're up, now you're over. Concrete there by the banana tree, and greeted by a three-legged cat named Shaky. Cat's name was Shaky. I remember that because he invited me, he challenged me to a race up the stairs, the balcony. Well, it was a hot day and we were all tired, but I figured, a three-legged cat, what the hell? I can beat him. Wrong. This cat had, I didn't know this at the time, but I found out later that Shaky had been, in a former lifetime, had been a racehorse. He was real fast, even on them three legs, but he had a real bad rhythm to it. He'd had a stroke, and sometimes he'd be running along about 60 miles an hour and fall down. That was frightening, especially if he was running around on that balcony. I got real concerned about him later, but this was a race, and we went up the stairs, and he beat me. Okay. And I tried to follow him in a little dark room where he had disappeared. Well, I got in the room, and I sat down. I was tired. I sat down in this chair, big old carved wooden chair, carved out of an old Mexican palm tree. And no sooner had I sat in the chair than I realized it was Jack Kerouac's chair. It was on its way up from Mexico somehow. I don't know how I knew that, but I just knew that. So I sat there a while, kind of caught my breath, and got the guitar out and played a song for Jack. Well, then it rained. It had to do something. It was too hot. So it started raining. And there was this gal down there. She used to be an ex-ballet dancer, and she pulled off all her clothes and started dancing around the banana tree in the rain. She was going to get wet. I didn't want her to get lonesome, so I followed suit. I went down there, and we danced around the banana tree for, several days, I guess. I know after a while the rain stopped and everybody went inside and started drinking Billy Fair's wine and telling lies and getting acquainted, you know how folks do. And then Frank pulled out his guitar and played the South Coast, for it had rained, and then Billy played some fantastic, unbelievable classical piece on a 5-string banjo, and then sun started getting light. The sun was coming up. Nobody wanted to be caught out in that hot New Orleans sun. They started disappearing over that same back fence. There wasn't no front way on there. I don't know, 912 Toulouse Street was all in the back somehow. A small group of us ended up in a little bar down by the waterfront with John Truman telling stories about the merchant marine and ships and the sea for 3.5 days one night. After that story, wasn't nothing left to do but ship out. Gonna ship out around the world. Went down to NMU Hall, gonna get our seaman's papers. Well, in order to get your seaman's papers, you had to get a letter from a captain to the Union, to get a letter from the Union to the Coast Guard, get a letter from the Coast Guard to the captain, get a letter from the captain to you, get a letter from you to the owners, get a letter from the owners to the Coast Guard, a letter from the Coast Guard to the Union. So we said, frigate. That's a nautical term. We'll build our own ship. Did you ever stand and shiver just because you were looking at a river? Forgot my glasses. Well, that concludes that list, but I do have another list of songs here. Don't worry, these are all the ones I forgot. Keep them on the back, just for sentimental reasons. Here's one by my old friend Tim Harden, who's buried up in Eugene, Oregon there. Buried right next door to his grandma's grave there. Also, it's home of Christensen Brothers Rodeo Company. In order to learn this song, I had to come to grips with myself, and I had to do a strange thing. I went to Tim Harden's house under false pretenses, disguised as a house painter. I carried along a ladder, paint brushes, all the usual stuff, you know, a drop cloth. And I told him that his wife had phoned me. I was a house painter, and she had instructed me to come and paint the rehearsal room. So Tim showed me into the rehearsal room where he usually rehearses. I set up my drop cloth on the floor, mixed up a little paint, climbed up the ladder, and started painting the ceiling just above where he usually stands and sings. Now, Tim had a funny habit of singing with his head thrown way back. And so as I painted the ceiling, I was glancing right down at a perfect view right down his throat, and I could see exactly how he was singing this song. I painted the same 3 square feet for 4 days. He didn't seem to notice I was there. If I were a carpenter and you were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby? Tinker were my tread, would you still find me carrying the pots I made and follow close behind me? Say you love the loneliness, won't you save my love for sorrow? Giving you my onlyness, please give me your tomorrow. If I were much poorer than you seem to see me, could you ever be sure that I could really be me? If I were a carpenter and you were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you carry my baby?